Hi, everyone, and thanks for coming back. I'm Dr. Arland Hill, the owner of Genesis Wellness and owner and co-founder of Harvest Hills Ranch. And I have with me today Virginia Rodriguez Perlado. Hi, Virginia. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to our conversation today. We the last time we got together and talked, we teased our listeners with giving them some insight in that. We were going to come back and talk about the gut-brain connection, do a deeper dive on that. We know that that's such a big area of interest for everyone. And I thought what I'd do here is just lead us in, give us a bit of an intro into that, talk about that connection, and then have you share with us some things that the folks listening can actually do about that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, guys, when we talk about this gut-brain connection, that's obviously a pretty popular topic out there in where there's nutrition or health and wellness circles now. There's a lot more communication going around about this. But I wanted to do a deeper dive today and talk about what this connection really looks like and create an understanding that with so many folks dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, we know that mental health concerns are certainly on the rise. We cannot look at these situations and not appreciate the connection to the gastrointestinal tract that is centered around them. Now, what does that actually look like? Well, one of the things that I always ask patients that are coming to me with these types of presentations to understand is that when we look at these different chemicals that are influencing our moods, that allow us to have a calm response versus more of an anxiety state, or to allow us to find pleasure in things that we're doing and to be able to focus and concentrate. All of these different chemicals that drive those different states, those different dispositions for us, those chemicals are produced and at a very minimum modulated in the gastrointestinal tract. So some of these names that you may have heard thrown around, things like serotonin, dopamine, acetylcholine, which is responsible for our brain speed, and even GABA, which is the primary chemical that works to keep us calm. All of those chemicals are derived from our gastrointestinal tract, and more specifically from the bacteria in our gastrointestinal tract. So therefore, if we're looking to truly optimize the health of the brain, the nervous system as a whole, we're not going to be able to do that if we don't have healthy gastrointestinal function. There's always this interaction, this interplay, if you will, a crosstalk maybe is a better word to use for this, that's occurring between the gastrointestinal tract and the microbiota of the gut. Those microbiota feed information into the nervous system, and the nervous system feeds information back to the microbiota. And the best illustration I can give you of this is what's known as cold microbiota. And literally, what this means is that if you're sitting in a room like you and I are here, Virginia, if we're sitting in a room like this and it's 70 degrees in this room, and we walk outside on a cold winter day where it's 32 degrees, it's freezing outside, the microbial profile in our gut literally begins to shift within minutes of going from that room temperature environment to that cold environment. Now, how did it do that? Well, it knew to do that because of what we would call sensory input, our senses, the sense of touch and feel. We feel that cold, we sense that cold, and that's providing direct interaction into our nervous system, which is then in turn communicating to our gut. So just think about even a minimal change like that, just a change in temperature, and now compare that to all the different neurological stimulus that is pushed into the body every day, or that we encounter every single day, and with the understanding and with concrete evidence behind us to argue that the sheer effects of stress negatively changes the microbial profile. If we don't have good healthy bacteria, if we don't have good colonies, we don't have adequate quantity and the activity from that quantity, we can't expect to have good neurological health as a whole. And that's where we in turn see the onset of things like the anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues. So with that foundation, let me turn this over to Virginia, because Virginia, what I would love for you to do is share with us some of the things that when someone finds themselves in these situations, they're struggling with anxiety, they're struggling with depression. what are some of the things that they can do that they can feel like they have control of the situation and start to do on their own?
Awesome. Thank you for that. I think it's fascinating to see the interconnection, right, on everything and how everything is related and how we need to look after our gut and our brain, right, and it's connected. So let me tell you something about brain health. So the thing is that, do we really take care of our brain? And because we don't see the organ, we tend to overlook it a little bit. It's not the same like when something is hurting, your hand, your leg, you look at it, but we don't see the organ. So, and the thing is, we need to pay attention to our brain health because Alzheimer's is going to triple in the next 30 years. And the disease starts decays before the symptoms start, right? Then depression affects millions of Americans at one point in time. And it's a risk factor for other conditions like cancer and cardiovascular disease, all kinds of activity, all kinds of diseases, including obesity. And obesity is a national crisis. And it's a risk factor for 30 different conditions. But the good news is that our brain doesn't have to deteriorate. Our behavior accelerates or decelerates the damage. And we need to pay attention to something called brain reserve. Brain reserve is the brain tissue associated with increased resilience when we face change or damage. So the bigger our brain reserve is, the better we deal with life events without affecting our brain health. So there are many things we can do to actually protect our brain reserve. And there are four aspects. One is biology. So we need to understand that 60-70% of our brain is fat. So we need the right kind of fats for our brain, the right kind of diet. Only about 5 or 10% of our genes are fixed things that can generate a disease. We can impact like 80% of our genes with nutrition and lifestyle management. So diet, exercise, toxins, allergies, brain injuries, all that has an impact on brain health. And we need to pay attention to all these different areas. Then there's something really fascinating. It's called the psychology of the brain. So we don't need to believe every single thought we have. We need to learn to talk back to our thoughts because not everything is true. It's a way to separate yourself, your essence from your thoughts and see why am I thinking this way? And you can ask yourself these questions. Is this true? Is this really, really, really true? How do I feel when I think that way? And how would I feel if I thought something completely different and more positive, right? So if you have that exercise and you do it on a regular basis, it becomes automatic. And it's something that Dr. Amen says, it's killing ants, killing automatic negative thoughts. Something important as well that he mentions is spirit. What is our purpose in life? What are we meant to do? What is our heart telling us to do? All of that has an impact on brain health. And then connections with people, not just online, but face to face as well. And the thing is about finding your tribe and love the people you love and who love you back. There's another doctor, Dr. Siegel, that talks about different activities that we can do every day to improve our brain health. The first one is sleep. We undervalue the importance of sleep time. Whatever routine you have, there's no magic number, 7-8 hours, but that prevents disease. And we need to have a routine and establish routine every day. Exercise, we all know it, right? It prevents disease, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes. It releases endorphins, it eliminates toxins. So something we can do for brain health as well, exercise. Then something really fascinating is this focus time. We need to spend time every day doing one single thing at a time without multitasking. That is feeding our brain cells. Something that really helps as well is time with yourself, your feelings, your sensations. It's mindfulness, it's meditation. And the research studies say fascinating things about meditation. There are so many different benefits. It increases empathy to deal with other people. It increases resilience to fight stress. It releases and decreases blood pressure, decreases inflammation, and it strengthens your immune system. So it's something that we can do 10, 15 minutes a day. And then we also need downtime. That is time without doing absolutely anything, relaxing time. When we do that, our creativity and our imagination goes to a different level as well, because we left the brain resting for a little while, right? And then finally, playing time. Everybody should play, kids, adults, structured play, unstructured play is good for the plasticity of the brain. And the same thing that Dr. Amy was saying, it's about purpose. What is our purpose in life? What is your vision? When you have that vision, you don't have to follow that vision because that vision is pulling you. And finishing with connecting, like Dr. Amy was saying as well, connecting time with people and with nature. Whatever you like, walking, trekking, skiing, cycling, phenomenal for your brain health. So here's some suggestions for you.
Virginia, there were a couple of things you said there, and those are such great suggestions. I think that entire mindset that you're creating there is so powerful because it literally creates a shift right at the foundation when we start talking about neurological health. Two things that I just want to elaborate on that you said. You mentioned exercise being beneficial for the brain. And if we look at exercise, and we all know the stimulus that it has for creating muscular development, for creating strength and balancing hormones, why would we also not consider that exercise is a stimulus for the health of the brain as well? It clearly is. It's not just the muscles that are benefiting when we talk about exercise. And you also mentioned one of the things that I took away from what you were just saying right there is that we have control over our thoughts. And most people look at the information that is presented to them and let that information control them. They let that information influence the decisions that they're making rather than being the one standing in front of that information and deciding whether or not they're going to let that information impact how they proceed forward throughout the day. And the reason I find that so critically important, apart from the fact that that is something that I have been telling more and more patients about, one of the things I like to tell patients just simply in this context is shut the TV off, cut the TV off, and quit letting all of that negative information infiltrate your brain because it's shaping who you are. But when we think oftentimes in regards to nutrition and functional medicine and health overall, we see folks get trapped in these vicious cycles. And that's exactly what we're talking about here, is that when someone allows the thoughts that they have to be able to control their outcomes, the choices they make throughout the day, ultimately what happens is that stress that becomes a byproduct of those choices then in turn has negative implications on the health of the gastrointestinal tract. It weakens the activity of the microbiota. They become less productive. And as a byproduct of that, they're not producing these different neurochemicals that are ultimately creating balance and stability in the brain and in the nervous system as a whole. So what do? They end up spiraling down further and further and further into a state of dysfunction. And I would be a bit amiss on this if at some point in our conversation, I didn't tackle the elephant in the room, which is pharmaceuticals. Patients in the population are presented with pharmaceuticals as a cure-all. And not to say that they don't have their place, but understand that they have a place. They're not meant to be the foundational support that someone should build the health of their gastrointestinal tract and their nervous system and their neurological health upon. It comes back to the very things that you were recommending and to creating health in the gastrointestinal tract.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like we say in functional medicine, disease starts in the gut, but doesn't stay there. It doesn't stay there. It goes to all the places in the body. So there is a direct connection, and we can use food as much more than medicine. Some great amino acids and minerals as well that are fantastic for brain health. So we can do many different interventions, including all those activities that we were discussing that actually build every day, little by little, that strength in our brain, and taking care of the food that we're eating every day. That's step number one, I would say.
Yeah. Well, everyone, listen, as you can easily tell from the conversation and the passion that Virginia and I bring to this conversation, this is something that interests both of us. We both encounter patients on a routine basis who are struggling with these issues, and we see that there's a potential for them to steer themselves down such a different course than what they've been led to believe that they have to go down. And so don't be surprised if we end up bringing more content in this particular vein of thought to you in the very near future again. As you can tell, this conversation turned out to be much longer than what we have presented to you prior. So you can see we have a true interest in this. So with that being said, I'm Dr. Arland Hill. If you want to know more information about what I do, you can visit me at drarlandhill.com. Or if you want to know about regenerative agriculture and understanding about the impact of high quality food and where to access that at, you can find more information at harvesthillsranch.com. And Virginia, where can we find you at?
Yes, if you want to know more about functional medicine, if you think you can benefit from doing one of my health coaching programs, go to colorahealthcoaching.com. That is COLORA healthcoaching.com, and feel free to send me an email.
Fantastic. Well, Virginia, thanks for being on with me today, and I look forward to our next conversation. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you so much. Me too. Bye-bye.
Bye.